Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, we're going to bounce around and do a few little odd jobs in the garden, but also talk about some plants for Mother's Day weekend, which is coming up this next weekend. I sold plants at the Raleigh Farmers Market and a garden center for 20 some years, and so Mother's Day weekend was a big weekend for us for sure. And I kind of know the plants that that the moms, wanted as they were walking down the aisles. And a lot of them, sometimes they're nostalgic plants, things that, their mothers had, grandmothers had, those kinds of things for sure. And definitely hydrangeas were near the top of the list because typically right around Mother's Day is when the Hydrangea macrophylla, the big leaf hydrangeas, are starting to show off some color. This is Dear Dolores. This is one of the remontant hydrangeas, the ones that come out, bloom beautifully, and they're just getting started. These inflorescences will be, softball size or bigger. You can see how many it's going to have on it. And then it's remontant, so after these are done, it'll put on a little bit of a flush, set some more flower buds, and bloom again. They're blue or pink depending on your soil pH, hardy in zones 5 to 9. Sometimes up in zone 5, the winters can kill the flower buds, so it's nice to have a remontant one that can overcome the fact that the flower buds got burned on them. Holly, you gonna block the whole video, girl? Okay, all right. So these are available on plantsbymail.com. I just wanted to point that out. There's a few of these things I'm gonna show you that are available on Plants by Mail that are good choices, and I think they ship the next day. But this is definitely high up on the list of plants that I sold in volume on Mother's Day weekend every year. Let's jump around and take a look at some more. One other big leaf hydrangea you might consider is Big Daddy. This one is not remontant, so it doesn't repeat bloom, but it doesn't need to because it has basketball size inflorescences on it. They're absolutely wild when this thing, it takes a couple of years for it to really develop that. So we got, bigger ones than normal on it last year, but this year I can see how vigorous this plant is coming out of dormancy. And I'm going to have, I had this one at the old house and would have inflorescences this big around on it. It's just wild. Of course, again, it's going to be blue or pink depending on your soil pH and available aluminum. There's a couple factors that go into that, but we typically have some sort of like bluish color here, not toward purple, but not deep blue, but it's just, I didn't really mind. They're beautiful in pink or beautiful in blue, but this is a vigorous grower. It's going to take a little bit of a space up. These are perfect for part shade, and so this one is it's actually leaning out just a bit toward where the sun hits it for a few hours, and then it's in the afternoon shade, and that seems to be fine. It'll get a little wilting on it in the heat of the summer, but not enough that I'm concerned about it. The leaves stay in pretty good shape, but Big Daddy it's wild how big these inflorescences are on this variety. One of the odd jobs between talking about plants in this video is it's time to start getting the tomatoes to run through the cattle panels. We put all our tomatoes in just early last week, and they have just hit the ground running. We immediately got a few 90-degree full sun days. Now we've gotten a little rain for the last few days. I've got a few weeds in here. I'll take the shuffle hoe and run through here real quick and take out some of these weeds. But the tomatoes, when they're growing like this, I need to get this done sooner than later. I won't be able to do it. But I can just feed them through one of these gaps, just like that. That's all we got to do. And but we need to do it pretty frequently. Some of them volunteer for it. This one had gone through one section already, but that's all we need to. That's all we need to do there. And this one has really taken off. It already has fruit, unbelievably so. It already has some, it's already flowering, and fruit are set behind it. And it's grown so much that I've almost waited too long. You gotta be careful with this. I will almost certainly break a piece somewhere on one of these doing this once I've let them go this far without doing it. I also have to take out some suckers. There's a sucker right there. I'll go ahead and do that on that one. Look how much that thing has grown already. Second to hydrangeas on the Mother's Day weekend plant list was gardenias here in the South. If you're in the South, these are hardy in zones 7 to 10. This is one of the Southern Living Plant Collection ones. This is Scent Amazing. Has beautiful daisy-like white flowers on it that haven't started to open here in the ground, but typically in the containers, we'd have them blooming for Mother's Day weekend. Just the containers get the plants growing a little sooner, earlier in the year, because the roots warm up quicker. But here in the ground, it's usually about mid-May when they start here. And most of all of the ones in the Southern Living Plant Collection have a kind of a remontant quality to them. They'll bloom all out at once, a big, just covered in flowers one time, of course, incredibly fragrant. And then again, they'll start to put on a little growth after that and have flowers here and there all summer long. Scent Amazing, again, has these daisy-like flowers on it. It becomes just flower to flower here over the next couple of weeks if you're following along with the channel. But definitely high on the list for moms. I'll show you one other in the front garden. I think 4 of the gardenias are available on Plants by Mail. That Scent Amazing I just showed. This is Jubilation, which we have not had in the garden until I just planted this one a week and a half ago or so in a video. There's one flower that's about to open, and then there's a flower bud at the end of every single branch. So we're a week or maybe a little less than that away from this thing just being solid white flowers. This has the double white flowers on it, extremely compact. This one in Scent Amazing will get like 3 to 4 feet by 3 to 4 feet. And then there's one called Foolproof that is like an older one called Frostproof that I used to grow tens of thousands of, but Foolproof is a more compact version of Frostproof. It also will reach probably somewhere in that 3 to 4 foot range, and it has the double flowers like Jubilation, but that's another one that I know that's available. And then Diamond Spire is really, really unique. It's an upright, narrow growing one that has those daisy-like flowers on it, really unique foliage. So I think all 4 of the gardenias are available. There's 3 that are kind of mounding, and then Diamond Spire is more upright and narrow. We have this Dr. Rupel Clematis out by the road, and it started blooming almost 2 months ago if you've been following along. It was solid, basically solid purple. And if you follow us over on Instagram, I tend to put photos of when things are in kind of peak flower like this, and it's just at HortTube. Once it finishes this initial flowering, you can go through here and actually deadhead where the flowers were, and that tends to stimulate a little bit of new growth that can continue to spread out here during the season on top of the fence, and we'll get a few ongoing flowers throughout the summer on this particular variety. But a little bit of deadheading seems to really stimulate that growth. A lot of times that's true with cutting on anything, but they're pretty easy to find. And only it's one of those jobs that takes just a minute or so. You set your coffee down, have your pruners nearby, prune off a couple of the old of the old flowers. You can. For me, they just become mulch under the plant, and they don't need to be removed. They don't need to be cleaned up. Just get it cleaned up, get it looking good again, and then a new growth will start on it, and that should give you some additional flowers during the summertime. Another thing I sold a ton of for Mother's Day weekend were fruit plants, blueberries, figs, anything that especially something that had fruit starting on it or had fruit on it. So I know over on Plants by Mail, which I have linked down below this video, they have I think 3 out of 4 of the Southern Living Plant Collection blueberries right now. We have all 4 of them planted here, and you can see just absolutely how full of fruit each of them are. And this is one in a container here. This is Hello Darling. If you get them in a container, I'll say that, I wouldn't plant them. If they're covered in berries like this, I'd allow the berries to mature before you stick it in the ground. Sometimes transplanting something into the ground will be shocking to the plant in some way, and it'll drop the fruit. So if you want to enjoy the fruit on the ones you're buying, when you receive it, because it should have, probably has a little bit of fruit on it. When you receive it, just wait for them to mature, eat them, and then then plant the plant into the ground. They're tough plants. They're really kind of easy. I love blueberries as ornamental plants, not only because of the fruit, but also because just the blue-green foliage, the flowers are great for pollinators. The fall color's unbelievable. In the wintertime, the older wood is peeling, and it's really interesting. 4 times a year, it's doing something different. So again, the blueberries are available over on the Plants by Mail website, and definitely one of those things that, just, when the moms got to pick, coming down the farmer's market line, these are the types of things that they would always choose. Another odd job that I really need to do is prune this evergreen dogwood some, but it's about to come into full flower. So it's this weird balancing act between I want to see this thing just be completely white and the fact that it's kind of in danger right this minute. We had some rain on it yesterday and you can see it doing this. And so I am worried if we had any kind of heavy wind combined with rain, this thing would be problematic for sure. So I've got to reduce a little bit of the weight on it, but again, I don't want to do it while it's about to bloom. It's really hard decision, but one thing I can come out and do this morning is just gently as I can shake off some of this water. It's losing leaves. I said this earlier this year. It's an evergreen dogwood, but it actually, as it's putting on new growth like this, it is shedding last year's leaves. So it's really tardily deciduous, which means it holds its leaves through the winter until the new leaves come. Holly's gonna walk under it and she's gonna be wet here. But I can take off, if I can just relieve some of this weight, which is, some of it is the last year's leaves and some of it is the water, that will at least help it some. Again, I'm just trying, I really want it to come into full flower before I prune it, but it is a risk I am definitely taking here. Waiting for that to happen. But as soon as it's finished flowering, which will be a month from now, it looks like it's going to be soon, but these bracts just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They start very small like this, and then they become, about 2.5 inches across, something like that. So that one's not fully finished. You can see this one's a little closer to full size, but even it's not. It'll be about that wide, each of these. Can you see that? How many there actually are on here? But I'm hoping to get the tree to not break apart during this period of time. And then I will get in here and reduce some of this weight on here to hopefully prevent this from weeping like this in the future. You saw me shaking the water out of here. Do be cautious though. If I get in here and I just start whipping this thing about, I could easily break it. So I am very cautious in how, I'm being gentle with it while I'm trying to shake some of that weight out of it. Down here below the evergreen dogwood, this is It's a Breeze rose. This thing is incredibly disease resistant, basically ground cover rose. It will get, the one that we had in the back garden reached about 2.5 feet in height. It'll get as wide as you want to let it get, but they're just coming in to flower. So I would say, on the Mother's Day weekends, if we had any open flowers on gardenias and big leaf hydrangeas, they were definitely the first things to go. Then fruit plants and then roses. So, typically a lot of the roses were still in flower. Some of them bloom early, pretty early in the season, but most of them still had some flowers on them. And of course, in this new rose breeding, lots of them are really, really leaf spot resistant. And so the foliage is so much cleaner. They look great. This thing will put on this big, giant, heavy flowering of red flowers. This one's newly planted. These flowers are a bit small. They'll be bigger in the future. But they put on this big flowering. You can just shear them a little bit after that if you want to. As soon as they flush back out, they'll do some additional flowering, come around in the fall, and they'll pick up that flower pace again. But It's a Breeze rose. And again, these are available on Plants by Mail, and roses were definitely near the top of the list for Mom on my Mother's Day weekends. Another one that always really sold well on Mother's Day weekend were the loropetalum. They would have bloomed by the time Mother's Day was happening here, but the new growth on them would be so fresh, and you can see that in this purple daydream loropetalum right now. So this one bloomed about a month or so ago, and look how incredibly compact this is. A lot of our old loropetalum didn't behave very well. I think there's a few Carolina Midnight on the website as well, which is a very large growing one. So that one would go on the edge of a property, whereas Purple Daydream has this compact habit, and you can use it as a foundation plant, or like we have it out here with some other chartreuse colored things around it, which is pretty typical of this garden. But it really makes this purple pop in the garden to have these yellow things around it. But that's, we had gotten some in from them, and look how nice this plant actually is. But this was another one of Mom's favorites on Mother's Day weekend. There are a few plants I saw on the site that are probably in between flowering during the Mother's Day weekend, like Encore azaleas would have bloomed earlier, but they'll bloom again in the fall. The butterfly bushes typically weren't blooming quite yet for Mother's Day. It's usually a little later in May and into the summer before they're typically blooming for everyone. But I know most of the butterfly candy varieties are available on the site right now. We have all 5 varieties here in the garden, and they're just these super, super compact. As you can see, nothing's been done to this. It's just waking up like this. It'll start blooming about this size and it'll be about this wide here in the garden. But all 5 of them are, you know, interesting, vibrant colors, compact habits. We really don't have to do anything to them. I cut them to the ground back in late February, early March, and that's it for the maintenance for the year. You can do a little deadheading in between flowering, and that will help them branch and flower a little more. But even if you didn't want to do that, you'll continue to get some flowers on them regardless. But definitely butterfly candy are a good choice for any gift, because it's going to bloom all summer long once it gets started. Another thing I saw on the site that's available is some camellias, and so camellias wouldn't be blooming this time of year. But of course, you know, the Camellia sasanquas that are in the Southern Living Plant Collection, like Ruby, I saw there was some available for Ruby. It's just this ultra compact growing camellia that blooms in the fall. Lots of red flowers. So these are some ideas that I've given you so far that'll be for, you know, if you're shopping for mom, and I know the things that moms would pick, but if you're the mom and you're watching and you want something to tell somebody something that's super interesting, this Shining Sensation Weigela, I think would be near the top of my list of things on the site that I would order, because this is, I think, really the best dark foliage Weigela out there on the market. I don't see a lot of availability on it typically. And I know there are some on the Plants by Mail website right now. It has these really vibrant pink flowers on it, pinkish red flowers on it a week or 2 ago. So the first round of flowering's done. This one will continue to have some flowers on it throughout the summer, but all the new growth on it is just has this beautiful burgundy growth all season long. We've got it paired with a couple of dark green shiny things, a couple of chartreuse things, and it really is a standout in the garden. Had to do basically no pruning to it for 3 years. You know, the branch here or branch there. It's about 4 feet tall and about 4 feet wide at this point. At some point I'll take some height out of it in the future, but this is one of the best performing plants in this garden since, you know, this garden project started about 4 years ago. And one of those plants I talk about frequently, and I see that people sometimes struggle to find it. But if you're looking for something that's unique and is a big time performer in the garden, definitely the Shining Sensation Weigela would be near the top of the list. So there you go. There are some of the things. I had this 20 years of experience, you know, selling plants on Mother's Day. And I kind of knew I knew what to put at the front of the space, you know, because, you know, people come and buy the space, what they would grab. And it's always, again, it's hydrangeas for everybody in the country. For us in the South, you know, we have the gardenias available. And of course, roses are available to everyone, always high on the list. And then fruit plants for sure. You know, fruit plants are it's hard to go wrong with fruiting shrubs like figs and blueberries. And then there's some unusual things on there as well, and some big performers here in our garden that may be available on there right now. And so thanks for watching. The Plants by Mail link is down below the video. And thanks for following along with the channel.